She shaped ELLE and Harper's BAZAAR, redefined luxury, and built her career on conviction. Nonita Kalra's journey is one of courage, change, and staying true to her values. This time, we spoke to her over a video call. She isn't in Mumbai, but we wanted her voice to reach you. Because behind the strength is about resilience, integrity, and intention. So, welcome to Behind the Strength, Nonita Kalra. With regards to your early journey, Nonita, first of all, I want to welcome you to Behind the Strength. It is our first podcast via Zoom, and I'm very happy to have you with us. Having said that, with regards to your early journey, if you could go back to picking up a version of yourself, starting out at India today in the 90s, what words of courage or encouragement would you whisper in your ear?
Yeah, thank you for making this exception of doing this over Zoom. While most of the world has gone back to doing things in person, which is what I prefer because I'm in London, I would miss out on connecting with somebody like you, and I would be very disappointed because I love meeting new people, and shiny talent like you is always on my bucket list of things that I must do. Your questions were great, and thank you for sharing them with me. They were very beautifully researched, and you really sort of looked at me. And the reason I love conversations like this is somebody else's version of you is so much more interesting than your idea of yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? You know, younger me, when I first started out, you know what I would tell her? You're okay. You're so filled with self-doubt when you start working. You're so nervous and you want to do well and you feel like it's going to be the rest of your life. What you do today, I was fine. What I was good at is I was really hardworking. I was passionate. I woke up every morning dying to go to work because I couldn't believe someone was paying me to use words. All I knew and wanted to do with my life was to work with words, to work with sentences, to read other people's copy, to worry about a font. And I got paid to do it, very little money, but I would tell younger Nonita, own who you are and amplify it. I think we don't trust our instincts enough. And as women, we're so intuitive. We spend so much time thinking about ourselves. But for some reason, the world tells you, make yourself small. I would tell me, and I think a lot of people thought I was already very opinionated, but I would tell me, be louder, be a little bit more noisy. It's okay.
Why not? In fact, it's very essential to have your voice heard. That is the entire idea behind the strength, if I may say. And this is so beautifully and articulately, you essayed it out so beautifully that yes, it is very essential to amplify that voice as much as possible. And what drew you into this world of journalism, passion, and what kept you there when things got hard? And I'm sure in every career graph, things do tend to go upward, downwards. It's always a north-south. I mean, that it's very hard to hit a balance for a very long while. So what was it that kept you in the flow of things?
You know, when I got offered this job, and I've talked about it, I had a wonderful mentor, Shekhar Gupta, who told me, go and do this job. Just go out and make me proud. And there are very few people who are that generous who will tell you, go out and make me proud.
Right.
And he was my mentor and he was my boss and he was so generous. Do you know something weird about Shekhar? He remembers everybody's birthday in his head. He doesn't have to refer to Instagram or Facebook or whatever people do. Shekhar remembers everything about people who've ever worked with him. So when this incredible mentor tells you, go out and make me proud, it was the one voice that resonated in my head. I said, I have to do this. Because a long time ago when I was working at the Express, I had screwed up really badly and he'd sent me a little note saying, I didn't expect this of you. And I keep that note because there are two things that you have to keep in mind. With good times, there will be bad times. So with Shekhar's compliment and faith in me, there was also a note saying, I didn't expect this from you when I screwed up spectacularly. Okay. And so when I joined fashion, I was a newspaper girl. I was from the Indian Express. We were covering the city. We covered art and we covered culture and we covered children's pages and film. I didn't think fashion would be all of that. And it was the first thing I learned, that fashion is all of that. Fashion is intensely political. It's driven by economics. It's a reflection of culture and taste and hopes, dreams, and desires. So here's the truth, and it may sound terribly obnoxious. There were bad days at work, but I never had a bad day at my work. I woke
I
up
understand
every
that.
morning. I couldn't wait for Monday. I woke up every morning excited, dying to see what challenges that day would bring. I
Right.
worked on weekends because I wanted to build my mind and be smart enough to deserve the respect of my team. And I'm going to say, I think those were crazy days. Priya, when we started in fashion, we actually were not told by advertisers what to do. We told the advertiser what to do. We said, we don't like your ad. Can we create something that will fit better with the magazine? We had crazy young people. There was no such thing as a beauty writer or a fashion writer. You were building them and training them. I woke up excited every day, but largely because of the crazy people that I worked with. And we're all in touch, and they're heading magazines, they have successful labels, they've acted in TV shows.
Wow.
I worked with some of the finest minds. How dare you wake up and not be excited? Yes,
Absolutely.
every job has challenges, but those are part of the fun, right? How did you
Right.
do this? How did you get past it? What was the solution? And I always had this thing that I would tell the team, don't hesitate to come with the problem, but come with 3 solutions so that I could choose one. And I used the same thing in my head.
Wow.
3 options or 3 solutions. And here's the thing, don't get paralyzed by fear. You have to make a choice and stick to the choice, but make a choice. Nothing is more damaging to a crisis than paralysis.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. In fact, I have seen Elle flourish under you. And I have seen you at that point, and not personally, but I've heard so many stories, and it's been not, I think they were more your realities that you were living, that you have made something so beautiful out of such a lovely, illustrious career that you've held, not only through Elle, but I think through the entire, I would call it the package of work and the plethora of work that you brought to the table. And that only comes with a lot of passion, doesn't it?
Of course, it comes with passion. And, I do want to call out that Elle is a beautiful brand because it's had wonderful teams running it and supporting it and working for it. I love the brand even now. BAZAAR is incredible.
Absolutely, yes.
Every brand is incredible and a reflection of the various teams that have worked on it. And I
Absolutely.
think you're right, Priya. You have passion for what you do. So do
Right.
I. And I find that in the creative world, while we don't come armed with degrees and MBAs, and people sometimes wonder, what is it that we do? I think what they don't realize is that passion covers a lot of things. Passion covers instinct, it covers curiosity. And I think that curiosity for the world is one of the greatest things to have. I'm always curious. I'll never sit down in an Uber without asking the guy where he's from, what he's listening to, a little bit about his life. When I was working in the magazines, every weekend I was at a salon watching people shop. What are they eating? What are they drinking? Curiosity is, passion is driven by it. Instinct is how you absorb all of it and actually make it logical. It's just that in a creative space, we're never given credit for this because we don't put it in a silly little chart and we
Yes.
don't articulate it the way somebody else does. So I think it's okay to learn that skill as well, because eventually all you want to do is learn to get your point across.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. In fact, this takes me now to the next question. It's like from print to digital, your career spans multiple, areas of media. What inner strength did you rely on to embrace each shift? Passion, of course, is the foundation, I'm guessing.
You know what? I think I was just a little bit crazy, but here's the thing that people forget. When I started my career, television had just started. So I did television for a couple of years, by the way, because I was just curious. I'm like, what is this beast? I want to understand it. I did television. I worked for India Business Report. I worked for BITV. I covered the stock market for a little while, Priya. I wanted to know what it was. And then I went back to print because I was so solely obsessed with print. I spent a long time with print, and I think I would have continued with print. But COVID changed everything. And I think we all had to learn to get digital. And that was the most exciting thing, because I realized that you can tell stories anyway. You just have to tell a good story, whatever the format is. It can be in 120 characters. It can be in a 14-minute film. It can now again, content is being consumed. You're dropping off in 3 seconds, 20 seconds. It's a long film, right? I just figured I just want to tell a great story. And then, as luck happens, e-commerce was becoming big because we were all sitting at home and shopping. And e-commerce realized we need storytellers to translate the IRL experience into URL. And eventually, what storytellers like you and I must remember in our darkest moments, when we have our greatest doubts about ourselves and we're in the throes of imposter syndrome, people need storytellers. And that's all I am, because I'm curious about your life and I want to tell your story. It's not so much my story. I'm not interested so much in that. But I made that shift and I learned that telling a story is great. E-commerce gives you access to data. It was more than intuition then. You learned how to use data to tell a story, right? What will resonate? How should I do this communication? You have to learn. You have to keep learning. And, you just have to put yourself out there and be that person who's always a student.
Absolutely, because of course the transition, as organic as it must have been on the storytelling board, the mediums, when they're different, you have to, kind of, when you have the user almost faceless in front of you, it becomes a little difficult. And to work seamlessly into that takes experience. So all credit to you.
No credit to me. Credit to the young people that worked with me and trusted me. Right. Here's the thing, though. I worked with images for so long, right? Yes. Photography. Right. I think I did 144 issues of ELLE by the time I left, 13 years with ELLE. 4 years with BAZAAR. That's a lot of copies when you do it month after. I spent a lot of time with imagery and composition. Right. To turn it into moving images was not hard. And weirdly enough, what I'd learned in television back then, when the Sky News team had come down, sort of all came back. And young people just teach you. This is, I wish people would not slag off generations following their own. Whether I love the millennials, I love Gen Z, because they teach you so organically and kindly by just including you in the conversation. You have to want to be included. Don't wait for them to ask. Don't wait for them to give you a seat on the table. They've created the space. Walk in, join them.
That's right. Yes, of course.
So in fact, I learned from shiny young people.
Yes, in fact, I think that's the best way to learn, isn't it?
I'm sure they judge me and think I'm doing a terrible job with my own Instagram handle, for example, but they're very kind to me.
No, I not at all. In fact, you brought so much to the table that I'm sure they look up to you in many ways. What was a moment when you had to make a tough editorial decision that tested your courage, but became a defining behind the strength moment?
There are a couple of things. I think when you scratch the surface and you decide to let your personal enter the picture, so much of what we do is represent a brand, right? ELLE had a certain personality, BAZAAR had a certain personality. If you're a responsible editor, you'll bring your personality to it, but you will stay within what the brand needs. I think at some point, a couple of points, I was very passionate about bringing something a little bit more. So at ELLE, we brought politics into the pages. And what people don't know is that actually ELLE is intensely political. ELLE is weekly, and it covers everything from the politics of plastic surgery to the politics of the government, all right? And we did, and I was just telling a friend of mine, we did a 4-part series on the riots in Godhra. I sent a journalist, and we covered it. And I don't think anybody expected that. And I think we lived in a different time when you could do that kind of political commentary. I think now politics is so polarizing that people would have a point of view in anything you covered, but we covered it as journalists. And that was difficult, but was something I always did. When we chose to do breast cancer, a lot of people, and we did a lot of work around breast cancer. A lot of people thought, why are you bringing something depressing like this into a fashion magazine? No, you need a conscience. You need to give back. And you don't change that, right?
Absolutely.
And I think one of the things we did is we were like, we love covering fashion, but we want the reader to have a heart and a mind connection.
Absolutely.
And so some of the stories we did then were not entertaining. They were serious. They were long form. But I think, each one of these brands could take these and it was okay. And yes, Priya, there were times when commerce dictated creativity. I have to support this brand. I have to put this on my cover. And I'm going to tell you something. I really fought against it. And I think that was a mistake on my part. There's a right way of doing it because you want your brand to survive. You want your brand to survive and thrive. And you've got to figure out how to work with partners who don't use you as an advertising tool, but as somebody that will work with them to spread their storytelling as well. And these were all hard lessons to learn because we came from old school journalism. Today's editors are much smarter.
Absolutely. I don't think that they're smarter. I just think that the times have changed so much. There is a lot of I don't really find the journalism today, and I'm being very blatant about it, though I don't think it's the right way to go about it, but I don't really think that it's very honest. It is in some places maybe, but in most places not so much. As far as, when you said you're talking about breast cancer awareness, when you're talking about the riots in Godhra, these were things with soul because luckily there was an opportunity for you to do that. Today, I doubt that anybody would, do that. And it's become very, again, another word that I don't think I should use is plastic.
Priya, I'm going to disagree with you. I have a lot of respect for today's editors. I think they're fantastic. I could start to name them, whether it's Mernaz, who worked for 10 years at ELLE and runs Grazia, or it's Rochelle, or it's Rasna. I think they're all doing a fantastic job. You have to look at their work in context of today's world. The world has changed, and each one of them, however, is pushing the envelope. If you look at BAZAAR's covers, or you look at Vogue's Forces of Fashion, or the creator stories, that Grazia does, or Femina's cover, every editor is reflecting the times, but also working really hard at pushing the envelope. Yes. The mistake we make is that we don't think fashion magazines are doing it. The truth is, fashion magazines are doing a more honest job than maybe some of your news magazines.
Precisely what I'm coming to. I'm not talking only about fashion. For me, when I talk about coverage, I'm talking about the entire range of it. Fashion magazines today, and yes, I do agree on that point. Fashion magazines, yes, are speaking out louder than the ones that would probably have more access to speak out loud, but can't due to other reasons. And when I said that, my idea was a broad coverage. It was a more or less generalization, not specific to fashion at all.
Yeah, you're so right. I don't watch news on television anymore. I can't. It's appalling.
That's precisely where I was coming from.
Yeah, it's appalling, and I'm embarrassed for the channels that they feel that news should be treated this way.
Even some of the Instagram pages, if you go to see, of the news channels, the same Instagram pages, oh my God. It is distressing to see something like that because it's all coated with something which does not come with an honesty or an honest voice. And
so, Priya, instead of getting upset, I have a really simple solution. I don't watch television and I don't read most of the newspapers whose biases are clear. However, there's so many fabulous independent creators.
Oh, that's absolutely.
And a lot of them are women because I'm so biased towards women. I get my news from them. We all have the independence to curate our news from the most authentic sources that we believe in. If something makes us upset, I just don't engage with it. My rage and my anger is not for you. Exactly. I am not wasting it on you. I will rage against different things. Right. I just block out what doesn't work for me.
That's, I think, the best way to go in today's world. Yeah. Has there ever been a story or a project, again, as I said, you fought for when no one else believed in it, and it ended up becoming a career highlight, as I might add? Yes.
I don't think I've had fights because one of the beautiful things is editors get a lot of independence. Okay. Right. They really get a lot of independence. Once you're chosen to be an editor, your vision is allowed to shine through. But two stories that I have really loved and I've spoken about, and it doesn't change, right? If it's been a highlight. One was this breast cancer story we went and we shot this woman. We featured a lot of survivors, and the sad thing is some of them are not alive and some of them are thriving. So cancer is one of those things that will come and find you. But we shot this woman and she wouldn't take the dupatta off her head, and we'd styled her beautifully, and we would go with fresh makeup to do their faces because we didn't want them to be ill, and then we'd give them this makeup kit. And I think Lakme was our partner very often. So the pictures I rejected, and I sent the team back and I said, go, persuade her. And we went and we got a really beautiful wig and a beautiful kurti in Lucknow chicken and everything. And she kept the wig. And that evening I was sitting at Indigo in Kolaba, the old Indigo restaurant,
Yes,
and I
yeah.
saw her walk in. And you know what? She didn't know me. I knew her because I'd seen the Polaroids of the shoot. And I wept, thinking to myself, she's wearing the wig, she's stepped out, she's looking great. And even better, I made a change in her life and she doesn't know about it. Because to really do something nice for someone is when they don't know about it. If they know
Absolutely.
about it, you're doing it a little bit for yourself to feel good about yourself. But if you're invisible and your magazine has been able to do something nice, that day, I mean, the next I went back and I talked to the team, and I'll tell you this. Every year, when I would talk to the team at ELLE and I'd say, what are some of the perks of the jobs? They'd say, working on a breast cancer campaign. So, I mean, this is what happens when you work with extraordinary people.
Absolutely.
I think for me, that's always been a highlight. The fact that, at one point after ELLE smuggled out women from the Taliban, for the Women's Congress, and I think it was in 2000 something. ELLE France put a woman on a burqa on their cover. And I think that that was so powerful for a
Absolutely.
magazine, a fashion magazine, to do this.
Right.
And later they went back and helped them set up their own magazine, which they didn't call ELLE, but they called it Rose. It's so beautiful to work in these places of so much power. I would say that these were the things that really changed my life in this deep, abiding way of what print can do or a brand can do. I no longer distinguish between, say, a brand like that is owned by Unilever or a L'Oreal, or a brand like, a magazine, because all of us have to support our customer, reader, consumer, and we all do it through the power of storytelling or supporting people.
That's right. Oh, wow. Okay. We spoke about the breast cancer thing. That would be a little personal for me as well, because I do have something like that happening in my personal zone as well. So I understand where you're coming from, where you make someone happy, especially a cancer survivor.
Would you
To
like to
feel,
talk to me about it?
no, that's all right. It's so basically, now I'm going to deviate a bit. Behind the Strength started because my mother was diagnosed with cancer 9 months ago. So for me, also, a lot of strength, which was perceived as strength, came out, in a way which was not very natural. Then I realized, I said, there are many people who have so many stories to tell, but they are not being, getting the platform to share those stories. And for me, this story for me kind of validates what I have been trying to share with everybody, whether it has been in anything, whether it's been in a domestic violence situation or a bad marriage, or whether it is someone who's battling depression, someone who needs to understand what fashion and how fashion can help. This kind of puts everything into perspective, doesn't it? And I'm so glad that.
Can I tell you something? My mother was diagnosed with cancer when I was at ELLE, and she was given 18 months to 2 years to live. She lived 8 to 10 years after that. She died. My whole office showed up. Half of them flew down to Delhi for the funeral. But when I went back to office and I was working, I started work the next day because I just needed to go back to my family to be okay.
Absolutely.
And the way my ELLE team helped me get over the hardest time of my life made me realize you don't just go to work, you make family.
Absolutely. Yes,
And
you're right.
that's why cancer was personal for all of us. Support for the people looking after someone with cancer is very underspoken and undervalued. There need to be
Precisely.
support groups, there need to be communities where you can talk to people, because for the patient, it is hell, but it is hell for the family as well.
For the caregivers as well. Yes,
Oh,
absolutely. It is hard.
I see
Um,
that.
so when you stepped away from print to embrace luxury e-commerce, what inner strength did you draw to make the leap into the unknown?
It was, I'm not sure whether it was inner strength or just belief there was time to learn something new. It was COVID. We were all locked up. The world had come to a standstill. but your brain didn't have to, right? And
Absolutely,
I just
yes.
really wanted to embrace something new. And I had, again, really nice colleagues. One of my colleagues decided to teach me everything I needed to know. I kept asking, what is a rich PLP? What is a this? She was like, I'll teach you everything. You don't worry. So I mean, a special shout out to Chail now, who was just incredible. Another colleague of mine from ELLE and BAZAAR joined as a fashion editor. So the two of us, were always sort of trying to navigate things together. Big projects were thrown our way. I remember we started something called Lux Life. We did 27 films, shot virtually, edited virtually, and dropped virtually. I think by the time we'd finished that, we thought we could do anything. We were wrong, because the next Lux Life happened in the next round of COVID, which is why by the third time we did Lux Life, I was like, I need an on-ground event. I need to see people, right? But
Absolutely, yes.
I think inner strength can also be equal to knowing that you don't know everything and entering a room as a student, right? And I remember my CEO then asked me, he says, look, you've been the editor. Will you be okay to adjust? Because the content is one of the many roles in e-commerce. I mean, let's not forget UI UX is so important. The guys who do the marketing, the branding, there's so many wheels in this whole experience. Content is a part of it. When you work in a magazine, you're the hero of it. So you can either walk into a room with an ego that's so big that you can't make space for learning, or you walk in as a student. And I think I've always loved being a student. I've almost liked saying, I don't know things. I mean, part of it comes from the fact that every woman has imposter syndrome. So we're always doubting ourselves. But I wanted to walk into the room saying, I don't know.
True.
And again, I don't know what it was. These incredible colleagues across all support functions, they spoke to me like I knew something that they wanted to learn. And it's in this kind of environment do you foster genuine growth. And today I work for a company that is the leader in luxury. So I think we did something right.
I'm sure you did, because it is really, I think post-COVID, the brand has just been.
I'm very proud of being part of Tata CLiQ and Tata CLiQ Luxury. I think it's just a wonderful organization.
It is a very valuable brand, and I think it's also the people behind it that have created it. Your career always feels fresh, despite decades in the industry. What's the secret muscle you've built that leads you to adapt without losing your identity?
I don't think I'm important, Priya. I don't spend a lot of time on myself imagining I'm a brand or I'm valuable.
Maybe that's your secret muscle.
I spend zero time on myself. And I'm going to be honest. I was telling someone, I said, I literally, when I say zero time, even self-care, the way I wear my products on my skin, it's like how little time can I spend in front of the mirror, because I'm always rushing to work or to finish something or to go work out or to read a book. I think if you don't take yourself seriously, the world gives you opportunity. Honestly, I think the worst thing that you can do is have a big ego or think you know too much or think that you're going to be relevant based on what you've done in the past. Every day, you have to work on being relevant today, and today you have to start working on being relevant tomorrow. I can't promise that I'll be relevant day after, but I certainly will do the work for today and tomorrow, because that's what I can see. And to not get overwhelmed, a friend of mine taught me, he said, just baby steps, take baby steps. So every day, I just work to be somewhat good at my job or to, deserve tomorrow.
So it's not about the past laurels, it's about what else you can do to achieve more. And that is your secret muscle. I think that's very inspiring, and I resonate with that completely.
Yeah, I worked in fashion at a time where there was no Instagram. Who's to remember what we did, right? And
absolutely.
Though I want to tell you a lovely story. We used to have a writer from the first issue of ELLE. We used to write to us on every issue, on what he liked and what he didn't like. And then he found me on Instagram. But most recently, I got an email from him thanking me for all the wonderful issues that we'd done and how he enjoyed engaging with us. And I remember thinking, 25 years later, you still remember the work we did. And I'm so grateful. And if you can touch one life, you're okay. That's all.
I really resonate with what you're saying. And even that feedback, that continued feedback has always been something that a lot of people aspire to have, but very few can manage that. And I think that kind of consistency takes a lot of uh, seamless effort when it comes from passion. And I think this is something which you have really managed, Nonita, because I have been following your career graph because like
Thank you.
you have been someone that I have looked up to since as I mentioned, the L days, of course, not before that, because I did.
You're way too young. Why would you even remember L? But well done. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I look young. I am not that young, but I do look a little young.
I
Okay,
wish women would ignore young, fat.
very true.
This, we put so much. If somebody says that, you look young, everyone says, no, I don't. Or we say, oh, you've lost weight, like it's a compliment. No, you look strong. You look
That's nice. I
well.
appreciate that.
Those are great. But this age obsession terrifies me. I
Yes.
don't know why we care so much.
I own my age. I own my age. I'm 41. I own my age. And I tell everybody, and people are like, why do you mention it out? And I'm like, because I enjoy myself
Priya,
more now than I think I've enjoyed myself in my 20s. So
yes,
I'm owning my 40s.
40 is a great age. And I remember thinking that it's a great age. But let me tell you, your 50s are even better.
Oh, wow. I'm
So
excited.
it's wonderful. Do not, I mean, really, what do we worry about? And to grow old is such a privilege.
It is. It really
It is.
is.
So let it be. We look
Absolutely.
different, but we don't look like what we did when we were born. We don't look like what we did when we were 12. Why should we look like at
Not
56
bothered
what we
about
look
that.
like when we were
Yes,
40? Let it go. There are more
absolutely.
things for beautiful women's brains to worry about than physical
Precisely.
appearance.
Absolutely. I agree. And that's where the source of inspiration always starts for me. Now, coming to this one, what has been your biggest professional failure and how did it end up shaping your success on the flip side? Has there been one, if there has been one?
I have never, and this is a happy, confident me. I don't think I've had a failure. I'm going to be really honest with you.
Right.
What I didn't enjoy was the little bit of time that I freelanced. Okay. Don't like to be a consultant because
Right.
I don't like to switch off. I feel like,
True.
don't make me do that. Please don't make me do that. Let me come to a shoot. Let me tape the shoes. Let me pack the bags. But don't keep me on the outside when
Right.
I am dying to give everything I have. So I was
Absolutely.
a terrible consultant. I couldn't understand how to do it.
Right.
And so I would say that there was a brief time between ELLE and between BAZAAR where I tried to be a consultant. I was not good at it. I wouldn't charge money for it. I had no idea of asking for my work. And that's a typically female thing because we're not allowed to ask for money and we're not allowed to say, I believe we should be paid that much. And honestly, I'm working in an organization that is so cognizant of people and their worth and their value. And this is clearly a Tata value and a Tata culture thing.
I agree.
That they really take care of the people that work for them. It is,
Yes.
there is so much respect, but I'm not good at being an outsider because I just want to be an insider when it comes to work.
It's also the momentum of your daily job, or something that you're doing on a daily basis that keeps, the cogs greased. It just makes it a little more.
I actually really admire Gen Z for figuring out how to work a gig economy and to have a work-life balance and to go for vacations and to work enough to go for a vacation, have the confidence that when they come back, they'll get more work. So while everybody sneers at them, I really try and have as many friends who are Gen Z because I learn from them. They're so smart. And if we didn't have them, we would never change some of the toxic traits about ourselves and our work culture. I am so delighted with every generation that flips a switch and says, I will no longer tolerate this. So, yeah, I'm not good at work-life balance. I'm not good at working from the outside. How have I changed it? I made it a strength by finding companies that have helped me learn to value myself.
Basically, the same ethos. Yes.
That's been a very powerful thing for me that I found some a company that would teach me that. From the time Shekhar told me, go out and make me proud, when I was at ELLE and I was getting bored, Hari Bhartia gave me this incredible advice. He says, only you can grow your job to what you want it to be. Don't ask me what I can make it. You make it, right? And at Tata CLiQ, learning, to be somebody who's a consultant who offers strategy and just drops the ball and lets other people figure out how and when they want to catch it. All really valuable lessons from three very important bosses.
Coming to that, in an industry obsessed with speed, how do you protect your space to pause, think, and then create with depth?
I am intensely private. Intensely. I don't know if you notice, I neither overshare on social media and I'm not out and about everywhere. And while that is a negative, at ELLE, we used to host so many parties, so I would expect people to come to my parties, but I didn't go to that many parties. I'm just really private, but I will connect with you on a one-to-one level. And so I love a lot of people, which is a strange thing to say, but I think to survive, you need to keep part of yourself for yourself. And the part that has the job should very clearly be for the job. So when I was at ELLE, nobody had my home address. Invitations went to the office. If something came to me, it went to the office because it belonged to the editor-in-chief of ELLE. It did not belong to Nonita Kalra, the individual. So if you can separate these two things, you'll find time to stop and pause. The other thing I do, Priya, every single day is I exercise. Exercise is my meditation. It keeps me sane. And the third really weird thing, which is not good, but it is a truth in my life, so I'm going to be honest and tell you, is I'm perhaps the world's most cheerful insomniac. I sleep 3 or 4 hours, if that, right? I get many hours at night or in the sort of early parts of the morning to read. And nothing is greater for me and my sanity and my space and my privacy. Reading is sacred. Some people chain smoke, I chain read. We all have our own weird survival tactics and we should own them.
Absolutely. Whatever works. I think at the end of the day,
whatever gets you through the night, it's all right. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like at the end of the day, if you're calm and you're peaceful, that's the day's job done. And you should be happy with that. I don't think anybody needs to judge it.
Some days you're not calm and peaceful, but that's also okay.
That's fine.
I'm all right with being hyper. I'm okay with being hyper a lot. I used to really think I should be one of those Zen people. I'm never going to be.
No, I don't think some of us have that trait. I don't think I have that trait either. I understand that. I understand that completely. You're known now, coming from this conversation to this question, you're known for living with intention, from a black dress uniform to conscious consumption. How does discipline in the small things give you strength for the bigger challenges?
That's it. Actually, you've answered the question. It is the little disciplines that allow me to have a very creative life, to deal with, crazy deadlines, crazy travel. So I'm obsessed with neatness. I need a very tidy space because I can't think in a mess. And it was so silly. At ELLE, I'd walk in, my desk would be tidy. It would explode, but it was tidied every evening because I need tidiness. Exercise because discipline.
Absolutely.
Eating a certain way, discipline. You have to find, and I don't think it's so much discipline, but for women, we need tiny little centers of control because a lot of life is out of control.
Right,
and
I agree.
When people say they're control freaks, everybody is. Everybody needs a center or a core of control, and its outward manifestations could be a tidy space, coffee a certain way,
right,
a certain kind of workout. I mean, I know I like the Pilates and the yoga because it's very measured and it's very slow and it's about equal weight on your thumb and your little finger and all the rest of your fingers. And my hands are so important, right? Because we're writers at the end of the day.
Yes.
And my eyes because I'm a reader. So these centers of control, and it'll allow us to face the bigger challenges. But that was such a beautiful question because you answered it impeccably.
Yes,
so I'm just adding to it.
It's the little things. It's always the little things.
It is the little things that will make you unravel, which is why it's the little things you need to try and keep in place.
Yes.
So that your machinery is well oiled.
Absolutely. Was there a personal low point that the public never saw? But that became a turning point in your journey.
Yes, there were personal low points. One of them I talked about was how the team
Yes,
supported me through my
absolutely.
mother's illness. There have been personal attacks. And all I can tell you is that if you have your team's back, they will have your back. The way people around me have come and supported me or build a wall of protection around me, and we do that for each other. Those low points also teach you that people's opinions don't matter, because you can be the flavor of the month for a week and then they turn their eyes to attack someone else, and hopefully that's when you can step in and protect that other person, because you've had mean girl behavior dished out to you and you try and protect somebody else from it. So I will say this with great confidence, that every space I've worked in, we've had zero politics, because I won't allow that. That's the one thing I can tell you about me as a boss. There will not be politics. Everyone is equal to give literally almost equal increments, because if you stayed and you're doing a good job, everyone is a star. You know,
Absolutely.
I genuinely believe that people are all stars. So, yeah, you know, terrible things teach you not to be a toxic person, or terrible things can make you toxic. My
That's true.
suggestion is choose not to be toxic. You have to end that.
Absolutely.
You have to end that circle
And this,
somewhere.
yes, break the cycle.
Break the cycle.
Break the cycle. That's the most
Yeah.
important. What's a habit, ritual, or a mindset you turn to on days where your confidence feels a bit shaken?
I put on music and I dance horribly up and down the house. And it's so weird. I have a constant soundtrack in my head. And I've been with my husband for 20 something years. He's very amused at what all I've heard, because I will listen to anything. I will listen to, Diljit Dosanjh, A.P. Dillon, to Western classical, to the opera, to rock and roll. I listen to everything, to Afro beats. I just, met an incredible taxi driver who taught me all about Fela Kuti and Afro beats, and I'm obsessed with that. I play music and I dance, and it is ridiculous how music and movement can fix anything.
That is
And
true.
by the way, I'm not a good dancer, but I dance like everyone's watching, because I'm doing a performance. I don't.
Absolutely. You're the star of your life at the end of the day,
Yes,
right?
and that's
Yes,
my soundtrack.
exactly. In your personal journey, what have you had to let go of, whether people, roles, or beliefs, to truly step into your power?
Haven't. Here's the weird thing, Priya. I haven't lost any friends, because I'm a Capricorn, so I'm very boring. I'm loyal to a fault. I mean, and that loyalty it's worked for me. Loyalty works for me. I've lost a lot of people I love, which has been really hard, because to lose your parents, then I lost my uncle, and then I lost somebody recently who was like my mother. She was my mother of choice. I always call her that. I think what I learned from all of them to step into my power was, what legacy do I want to continue from them? And of course, you grieve, and you grieve your own way. You grieve for as long as you want, how you want, quietly,
Absolutely.
dramatically, your choice.
That's right.
But I just figured, what do I want to take from them to continue their story and make it my story? And that has been something that's made me incredibly strong. From my mother, I learned how to embrace fashion gloriously. From my father, I learned so much kindness. From my uncle, I learned how to, love music and let it heal. And everything of me as an independent woman, I learned from Anita Auntie, who was like I said, my mother of choice, had the same name as my mother. All of them have been far, and they've all come through tremendous joy and a lot of grief. Death is a hard one.
It is. I know. I understand that. I understand that completely. You've mentored countless young professionals. Can you share a behind the strength story of a mentee who reminded you why you do what you do?
There were so many, and they're so brilliant, and they're all where they are today, really
Right.
because of their own strengths. But as a boss, I remember I was very strict, because I was very young. And I think I overcompensated by being a bit of a tyrant. And I made someone cry in an edit meeting. And I come from that school of journalism where people had stories of, oh, so and so shouted at us. He tore my copy in front of me 3 times. He threw my story at me. So I thought that was okay, right?
Right.
And this
Yeah.
young lady told me, you have no right to do this to us. And I think the day I heard that, it completely changed the kind of boss I was going to be. Because I said, you're right. Just because I was told toxic editor behavior from the past was the way to go, I don't need to carry on this way of behaving. And once you realize that you can snap this chain of obnoxiousness, of toxic traits,
True.
it's very tiring because you start to change a lot of things in your life.
Absolutely. It's a healthy work environment at the end of the day, and that's what keeps if your employee is happy, if the people you're working with, I mean, if they are happy, your team is happy, they are going to come up with utmost creativity at the end of the day, and you are going to get a better output from them rather than them, if they are bogged down with toxic pressure, imposition, that's not going to work out.
Also, just be nice to people. When did we forget that that's the law? Just be
Absolutely.
nice
That's
to people.
Yes, it's not something that's a manipulative strategy. It's more organic.
Yeah.
If the headlines of your career disappeared tomorrow, what would you want to remain as your real legacy?
Sending wonderfully kind people out into this world, editing a certain amount of copy and fairly decently, and teaching everybody to use less words when they write. Just choose better words.
Right. If you had to pass on one mantra to the next generation of women in media, what would it be, especially for days when they feel like quitting?
Women need to not just speak, but they need to scream. I feel that they shouldn't apologize for raising their voice and being called aggressive or noisy or hysteric. We need women's voices amplified. And that's what I would say, that you can't quit because it is not a luxury to do this job. It's almost an imperative. When I joined journalism, my grandfather actually told me, he said, from today, your life will change because the rules for you are different. You have to conduct your life with integrity. I want to tell women, you need to conduct your life and be journalists because it's a necessity to have female voices in this current world and environment. We bring empathy, integrity, kindness, and impeccable honesty to the table.
Thank you so much. This conversation has been so inspiring. I can resonate with so much. I'm sure so many more of our audience is going to resonate with you. Thank you for speaking your heart out. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Priya. Your questions were so beautifully researched, and you really, really know your subject. I want to say, when I read them, I was like, oh, wow, she knows a lot. But thank you.
I'm glad I could come through.